Since I've been driving this car, I've gotten way more looks than I remember with my Z06, because I would get a lot of looks with that because it's naturally loud and boisterous, but with this thing, it's just in your face because it's a bright red muscle car. It's very Americana. It's very fun. As we speak, I'm pretty sure that these girls over here are staring at my guts. Bright and early, guys. What's up? Big Climb 34 here, coming to you today with a little bit of a surprise. We're gonna go pick it up right now. Just doing the morning thing. Waking up. Puppies are fed. Doing their morning thing. Right, puppies? Z scratched their head open. With the itchy. Yeah. So we're heading out today, bright and early. It's gonna be a interesting day. So come right along with us. It's so cold, it's so cold, it's so cold. Look off the snow, look off the snow. Nice coat of ice on old girl. This thing is not pretty, but it gets me there. Trying to film with one hand and do things with the other. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. I really enjoy snow. The cold's like all right. It's like good for like maybe a month, because here in Delaware it'll get cold around like December, end of November, and then it'll be cold all the way through like February or March. So like by right about now, January, I start getting sick of it, and I'm just like, why do I like this in the first place? But when it snows a lot, I can deal with that. But when it snows like a little bit, like this little bullshit, I just can't do it. People don't understand that the left lane is for passing. You just want to hit them. This police officer's probably about to light this dude up because he's driving like an idiot in the left lane. So if you haven't picked it up yet, we're on the way to pick up a GT500. And this is what we're going to be wheeling around in today. Shelby GT500. I think it's at 07 on the ad.
Nice place to do business based on new sales volume as reported by Hyundai.
Oh, hell yeah. We're officially behind the wheel of a GT500 for $75. And I'm going to explain to you how that happened in a second, but it's really early. So first things first, I'm going to drive back to the house because I'm freehanding this camera. I'm literally right around the corner from where I live. And we're going to grab some mounts and stuff, and we're going to go for a really good ride, and I'm going to tell you what it's all about, how I got into this thing for so cheap. There's a good chance that you're wondering exactly why I'm in a Shelby GT500. And why it only costs $75. This thing really blows the tires off. A lot of power. As it turns out, my head mechanic is kind of slow. All jokes aside, as you guys know, I don't have a head mechanic. I'm working on the truck myself, but I had to stuff it indoors. There's really no room for it. There's no room to work on it. It's like 14 degrees outside right now. So I was like, what can I do to make some content? And I was following Doug DeMuro's videos. If you know him, he reviews cars or whatever, pretty cool videos. And I hopped on there, and he gets most of his cars from this app called Turo. Not a paid product placement. They have no idea that I'm even making this video. They might hate that I'm making this video. I don't really care. But anyway, I went on there and saw that you can get a lot of cars for a day or two, just, you know, people's cars. And I was like, a GT500, that would be pretty cool to rip around in a little bit. you know, feel it out, do a review, make a video. So here we are. I got this GT500, $75 for a day, and that's it. And then I take it back and I'm done with it. Honestly, since this isn't even my car, there could be like a kilo of coke in the trunk or more. The whole trunk could just be made out of cocaine. And because I'm renting this from somebody who I've never met before, I would have no idea. Like, I could get pulled over and go to jail for the rest of my life. All because I rented a car from a stranger. Unlikely, yeah. I mean, if I had like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of ish, no matter what it was, I wouldn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of coke. But if I had $100,000 worth of something else, I don't think I would leave it in my trunk. But who knows? Coke dealers are probably forgetful. But when I review cars most of the time, I get them for maybe an hour or two, and that's it. Like, you can't really get a good feeling of what a car is all about in an hour. So I've been riding around in this all day. The truck, for those of you asking, is going to be making progress. I'm trying my hardest to go forward with that on behalf of you guys. And I mean, there's some people behind it who I'm sure would also like to see it moving sponsorship-wise. So we will be working on that in the coming weeks. But for now, we're going to enjoy this GT500. And this week, I'm going to give you a review of it. Kind of another Chevy guy and a Ford review. Because it is in that kind of Z06 range, people are going to want to make comparisons to the Z06. So I'm going to try and do that too, break it down, and piece by piece figure out what's better, what's worse. Let's run through this thing with a fine-tooth comb and see how harsh a Chevy guy, I admit it, I am a Chevy guy, I'm biased. I try and be as unbiased as I can in these reviews, but a Chevy guy, how he interprets a GT500. The owner says that it has some basic modifications done to it, bolt-ons, a little bit of trans work. He said that he just got something done. I don't remember exactly what he said. It was early for me when I picked it up, so I was like, yep. What I basically got out of it was like, he was like, don't go hard into second gear. Second and fourth seem weird, so I'm kind of just going 1-3 with it. Besides that, the car is phenomenal. It has like 15,000 miles on it, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at here. And in a lot of ways, it actually is better than my Z06, but in other ways, there's no way that this car could ever touch a Z06, and I'm gonna have both Ford camp and Chevy camp hating me heavily on what I say about this car across all kinds of axes. So first, let's start off with what we're seeing here on the inside of the car. Now, this is an area that, in my opinion, the GT500 is way surpassed the Z06. While the Z06, we're talking about the C6, of course, definitely has a better interior than other GM vehicles from older generations and is a big step up, this interior, I think, is pretty nice compared to a Z06's interior. The different materials that they use in here, let me make this merge real quick. The materials in here are nicer. They have this wrinkled imitation leather over here, I guess you would call it, the actual wrinkled leather, and the seats are just, they feel like they're made of a better material, because in the Z06 you kind of get that like plasticky leather feel. It's not terrible, it is what it is. I mean, it's a Corvette, it's not a luxury vehicle, but on the same hand, this kind of has a little bit more of a luxurious interior. Seats are, comfort-wise, I feel like very comparable to the Z06, but like I said, I do like the material a lot more. And the one thing that I could never stand about the interiors on Z06s that have colors in them is the colors are very, very vibrant. They pop, they're in your face, and it's like I'm driving exotic cruiser. When you look at those things, you feel like you're in an 80s drug movie driving a Countach or something, just based on the seats alone. They're just so bright, and it's gross to me. I can't stand it, and it's something that really popped out to me about, even the C5s do it too. But with these, you kind of get a little bit more subtle of a red. You know, it matches the outside, and it feels like a sports car, but it's not in your face. Like, it's not like begging to be seen. It's something that you definitely notice when you get in the car, but it's also not just blasting when you get in here. By looking at the seats, you're not going to get a massive headache like I feel like you would with the Z06. Looking up at this gauge cluster up here, again, laid out very nice. It's actually funny, I was driving earlier, I hadn't really looked too much at the gauges. I was kind of feeling out the car, figuring things out. I'm sitting at a red light, and there's a gauge up here that says PSI, and it's on 0. And I'm like, oh my God, the car just lost oil pressure. I blew up somebody's car. What do I do? And then I was like, wait, it only goes up to 15. That's definitely boost. Crisis averted. I do like the gauge cluster on the Z06. This one's decently laid out though. Again, I guess that's just personal preference. And the bezel that it's in though is pretty nice. They have this silver trim on everything on the interior. That's a Honda. They have this silver trim on everything. It looks pretty nice. It feels a little bit cheap maybe, but I feel like on the inside of this car, the GT500 just wins. I think that this car is better at the interior because it's more designed to be a comfortable cruiser, whereas the Z06 is more performance oriented. Don't get me wrong, this is a performance oriented vehicle, but it's not so much targeted at the hardcore racers, I feel like, as it is more of the weekend cruisers. And you know, it can be modified to perform well, and we're going to get into that in a minute, but I feel like it's not so much tailored towards the people who are going to go beat the crap out of it, even though a lot of them have ended up in the hands of people who like to race. Under the hood, I mean, we have the 5.4 liter V8 with a supercharger on top. Now, before, because this is going to make every Ford lover hate me, but in terms of performance, this car does not hold a candle to the Z06 or the ZR1. Like I said, I feel like it's more of a cruiser and falls into like, this is going to sound really dumb, but it falls into kind of like, it feels a lot like my GTO, except a much faster version of it. It's a heavy car, it's a big car, it has a nice interior that's very comfortable. I could see myself, in terms of making a long road trip, this would be a much more comfortable vehicle to make a road trip in than a Z06. They have the same amount of horsepower pretty much from the factory, but you're gonna find that the Z06 is a much faster, much better performing car that responds a lot better to mods. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is if you're looking for maximum performance, which I feel like if you buy this car, it's not necessarily what you're trying to get into. You want a fast car, a fun car. The supercharger is a ton of fun to drive. I haven't been beating this car too bad because it's not mine, but once you get into a little bit of boost and it starts whining, it just kind of, you feel like amazing when you're driving it. I'm not exactly sure if this particular car is lowered, but it rides a lot like the Z06. With the incredibly stiff suspension, you feel every bump in the road, and again, that's like a performance car thing. You're pretty much going to get that across the board, no matter what performance machine you go with. One of the benefits of this car, personally, I'm not really a fan of positive displacement blowers because this kind of supercharger makes a lot of heat, and you have to modify the car to be able to handle that heat. And you'll see in the CTSV community, they do like ice and all that, and I know there's a place for that. When you're racing, you have time to change in and out between races, but I like taking my cars out and beating on them hard, and with a blower like this, you're going to make a ton of heat. I would assume that after a while in the summer with driving, it would get to be a dog after you get heat in the motor, and it just probably wouldn't be good to beat on back to back to back. However, with that said, I really do enjoy driving this car. It just so happens that the weight factor in combination with the blower, in combination with the fact that it's a stick shift, it's not the optimal performing machine, but it is pretty fun to drive. It is fast. It's gonna beat, I mean, with basic modifications, maybe like bolt-ons, a nice pulley, you'll make a good amount of power and probably beat the good majority of cars out there. I just naturally have this urge to compare it to the Z06. Z06 isn't the only car in the world. There are plenty of cars that you'll be able to go out there and just smash all over with basic modifications. And for 30 grand, you can get these. I was looking today in the high 20s, mid 20s sometimes, with a little bit higher mileage to $30,000. You're probably getting a pretty good value for your buck. In terms of how it's kind of driving for me right now, I would classify it as a touring car. It's tight, but it's also heavy. It makes good power, but you can't expect it to be the fastest thing out there on the streets, especially with not how fast stuff is going these days. So if you're not a racing freak, then this would be a great car for you. But personally, if I purchase this vehicle, I feel like the weight in combination with the stick shift, in combination with the independent rear suspension, I feel like most cars have independent rear suspension these days, but I feel like those factors together would kind of gang up on me and piss me off in terms of trying to get this thing to launch at the drag strip, or, you know, be able to compete with these lightweight machines that you would probably be racing. It has a lot of novelty to it with the GT500 package and all that, with the supercharger. As compared to other cars of this generation, this thing is like king-ish. It's on the top of the pile. A 3-valve Mustang is, you might as well just buy this right off the bat, because it's wet, like, trust me, just do it. If you're considering this body style, that is. But if you want to stay in a Mustang and go fast, from what I've seen working out there well, my advice to you would probably be to go buy a Coyote. Cool factor in this car is really there. Again, a very subjective thing, but since I've been driving this car, I've gotten way more looks than I remember with my Z06, because I would get a lot of looks with that because it's naturally loud and boisterous, but with this thing, it's just in your face because it's a bright red muscle car. It's a very Americana. It's very fun. As we speak, I'm pretty sure that these girls over here are staring at my guts. And the guy on the other side rolled his window down trying to talk to me, but I'm trying to talk to you guys, so I just kept rolling. God, I hate Mustangs. And that's probably like the third person within an hour that has done a flyby. I don't mean to sound like I'm uptight, but having people try and race you every 5 minutes is kind of annoying. The tint on these windows needs to be darker so no one can see me. So here's the final verdict on this car. I think that if you go out there and spend the money that it costs to purchase one of these things, you're not going to go wrong. You're not going to regret spending the money at the price point where one of these cars is. However, it really does have a good place as a pretty good performer with lots of potential if you add modifications to it. However, you guys heard me talk about my whole performance ramble. It'll be a good car, not a great car, because of the way that it's set up, as we have seen over and over again. However, if all that you want is a consistent 10-second car, maybe 9-second car, with a couple of modifications, you'll be there with this. The first, oh my God, that second gear is not happy. Everybody is staring at this thing, I swear. If you like attention, buy a bright red Shelby GT500. If you're not into the whole camlope thing and being loud and shaking, you can have a very smooth and fast car with the help of a supercharger, but like anything else, it has its drawbacks. So would I buy one? Maybe, if I had a bunch of money and I was collecting cars. This is probably my favorite Mustang that I've ever driven. Then again, the only other car that I've driven is a Terminator, which definitely has its place, but this is definitely a big step above that. Almost like a C5 to a C6, if that makes more sense to you, or like a F-body to a C5. This is definitely a step up above the Terminator. If you're considering something like this, hop in it, give it a test drive, see what you think. Let me know what you think of my opinion down below, and if you enjoyed this video and got some insight on the GT500, smack the like button and remember to subscribe as well. So final score in this car and final verdict for me, it's very well rounded. On the should I buy it scale, I would give it about an 8 out of 10 for value. Could improve in some areas. Very Mustang-y. I don't know if that makes sense. Overall, a very, very nice drivable car. Very well rounded. If you can accept this thing as a touring car and not like a touring / muscle car and not the fastest thing in the world, which is a very reasonable verdict, then I think that this might be a good car for you. With a little bit of modification, you're in the hot seat. So that's what I think of the GT500. Let me know what you think. Comments below. Hit them up. Later, guys.